Girls Gone Wild. Most of us don't know what it is, but we do know that there were some massive female boobs that were showed on camera, and this one guy, Joe Francis, the creator of the whole thing, went to jail for it. Before I even continue, this video was heavily inspired by Illuminati's videos, but instead of going deeply into the court cases and litigation cases that were leveled up against Joe Francis, I have another aspect, because I happened to stumble upon one of the many episodes of the Girls Gone Wild show. Like, I'm going to be showing the good stuff in this episode, so you want to stick to the end, guys. But before I continue, why the hell is it that whenever I search up the name Girls Gone Wild online, this poorly made music video by this upcoming musician Madonna always keeps coming up? It always keeps coming up, and I don't know why. One thing that baffled me about this whole court cases is that even at the primitive stages of the internet, it still doesn't forget. For more context, Girls Gone Wild franchise started around 1995 to 2000. Specifically, it started in the year 1997, and the court cases and the documentary was filed against him in 2025, over 20 years later, guys. 20 full years later.
Sitting in a chair to talk about Girls Gone Wild.
I figured at some point I get a knock on the door.
At that period of time, those in the late 90s, most of the advertisements for products and shows were done on TV, and due to the disturbing and explicit nature of the Girls Gone Wild brand, where they showed chongas on TV, they got into so much trouble because they were showing boobs on TV. And guess who else was also watching those television at those particular moments where they were showing everything on TV? Kids were watching it on TV at that particular time. I know I would. Like this clip of Joe Francis filming two incredibly younger kids. It was just disturbing. I don't know what to make of it. It was just disturbing, guys.
I'm Frankie. How are you doing? Brody? Oh my God! He was trying to hit me.
Back in those days, even the WWE, yeah, the wrestling giants, WWE, usually, and by usually I mean that they always promoted the Girls Gone Wild brand in their like wrestling matches. Before we actually get into the bread and butter of this video, I would like to say that during my research, I realized that shit was happening behind closed doors, and this video is going to be heavily censored. The premise of the show Girls Gone Wild involved hundreds of men and women. Yeah, and at that point, I don't think all the remaining 700 genders has been acknowledged at that point, so we are just going to be going with men and women. Yeah, I'm just going to show a little bit of the intro, but I'm going to censor every part of it that involved someone taking off their top off. So let's see how censored it gets, guys. Yeah, back to the way that the show ran. Jonathan Coachman, yeah, his name is Jonathan Coachman, starts introducing the like judges of the show. The first person he introduced was Stacy Diva. I don't know who the fuck that is, but that's supposed to be like a WWE personality or something. For me, this is where I started to ask the good questions, like why the fuck are ladies pulling up in lines and taking their shirts off? Well, he said it, but I will just say it again before he says it. Well, they are taking out their shirt off as a competition, and the winner gets $25,000, guys.
Brother, what's that? What's that, brother?
Adjusted for inflation, that's about $40,000. Is it worth it, guys? It's worth it, because right now on OnlyFans, people are showing off everything for like $5 a month.
Baby girl, we're in the same industry. We are. You spread your legs just as much as I spread my legs. But I do not. So how the f are you better than me? I do.
They introduced Joe Francis, the dude that this whole video is supposed to be about. But just stick with me, guys. I'm taking you guys on the ride, and this is not just any roller coaster ride. Let's continue. The next person they introduced was Snoop Dogg. I don't know where I'm going with this, but Snoop Dogg was part of this whole charade, guys. Snoop Dogg.
He's the CEO of Doggy Style Records. Please welcome Snoop Dogg!
Yeah, come on. Yeah, girls gone wild up in here.
They explained what the games were going to be about. He said that the last rounds were going to be freaky. And if you think that freaky just means freaky, then you have got something literally more coming to you. The rest of the episode can't be showed online on YouTube for community guideline reasons, but it's going to be linked on my Patreon, and you could find the whole video on my Telegram channel. So all of you guys that are freaky and they want to see ladies getting freaky, you can go check it out. But I'm not endorsing this. I'm not saying that what they did is good, but just go check it out for yourself. Then come back and comment in the comment section. This TikTok millennial really explained this video, and she made sense. So let's take a look at it.
Joe Francis for about 4 years now.
That is Sachi Cole, who did a ton of this research. And I think it goes without saying, but I just want to make sure this might be an upsetting one depending on where you're at in life, the things you've been through, that sort of thing. So if it gets too intense, feel free to scroll and I'll catch you to the next one. In a nutshell, if you don't know what GGW is, it was literally marketed as these girls at spring break who just wanted to show stuff, whatever, when in reality it was a lot of young girls, a lot of times underage, also severely under the influence of whatever. They were deeply pressured, not to mention when you got the actual videotape, you'd realize that it wasn't just that, and it went to a very different genre. Now, Sachi was actually granted a very, very rare interview because Joe Francis doesn't do interviews very often. He's done a lot. He's actually a fugitive from the law here in the United States. He was sentenced to 270 days in jail for, I'm betting you can guess. We'll get to that. That's actually in part 3. And fled the country, has not been back since. However, the woman that he married and took down there has since come back and has some pretty intense horror stories, as well as several people that work for him. He's been charged with so many things down there also. It's kind of amazing that this man is still free.
What the hell does this statement mean? Luring. Meaning to tempt a person or animal to do something or to go somewhere, especially by offering them some form of reward. The GGW crew gave out hats, hoodies, t-shirts as exchange for jiggly photos. And by jiggly photos, you all know what I mean. Jiggly photos, guys. Yeah, I know I said in this video I wasn't going to talk about Joe Francis or his litigation case or his court cases, but I never said that someone else can't talk about it.
Criminal case gets thrown out because investigators botched the case. Instead of treating it like a child case, as they apparently should have, they made it more complicated by treating it as a racketeering RICO case. And I guess it didn't really need to be that, but that's the strategy that they chose. And so it turns out they didn't even have probable cause to get the search warrants to go get that footage. So by law, apparently you have to have 2 known examples of underage girls on film. And apparently investigators only had 1 example, which was the 2 girls' shower scene who reported the next day that they were basically coerced. They're underage. So they only had 1 example. And so they essentially allowed a judge believe that they had 2 examples, which is why they were able to get the search warrant. But I guess if the judge had known there was only 1 example, then they never would have gotten permission to go in and get that video footage. So the whole criminal case gets thrown out. And Joe Francis, this just emboldens him to be a bigger fucking cocky asshole. And he's like, look, I won. They had nothing on me. But in reality, they had everything on him.
Yes, from my research, I realized that Joe Francis dude has been in more court cases. It's like he's actually seeking out court cases to be in. Like at this point, he rivals Diddy. My take on this whole issue with Joe Francis, he never forced anyone to take off their clothes and show their chongas, right? He never forced anyone to do any of those things. He just gave them t-shirts and they gave him pics. So free that dude. That dude has done nothing wrong. That's only my take. What do you think about it? Your thoughts in the comment section. Peace. See you in the next one.